Rolling. Okay.
Welcome to Skippy Lowe Looks at Hollywood. Joining Skip today is Psychic to the Stars Kenny Kingston. And a surprise guest. The psychic does not know who this person is. So, let's join him. And now, the man of the half hour, Skippy Lowe.
Kenny Kingston. You're sitting next to a lady. I surprise. I don't want you to know who she is, and you don't know who she is.
No, sweet spirit, I do
My
not.
audience is out there think you know, but I'm going to tell them you do not know who she is. I surprised them. This lady, can you just touch her and feel
Sure,
who
I will do.
whether she's in the business or...
Of course,
You
I
happen
will-
to be one of the world's best psychics. I just
Well,
want
most flamboyant, I don't know about the...
flamboyant, but one of the best.
Thank you.
This-
All right, now I'm using, by touching Madam X's ring, I'm using the art of psychometry, which is
Right.
touching a jewelry. I started out my career with my grandmother, Catherine Walsh, teaching me tea leaves. Then my mother, Catherine K. Kingston, taught me psychometry.
Right.
But then if I use the telephone, Mae West taught me that when I was 7. The lady, around the lady is something very important that she wants to tell the world.
Right.
She's got something in her heart, correct? I have to hear your voice now.
Yes, correct.
Thank you. You want to tell the world, but it would have something to do with where you're living. Is there a view?
Well, as a view I enjoy.
Oh, that's important. Okay.
She's in the business.
All right.
I'll leave it like, I'll give you a hint. She's in the business.
In the
Very
business.
powerful in the business.
All right.
Show business. that is.
Yeah, okay. The lady, the information, there's someone around her with the initial M, L, or R,
Ooh.
and possibly a Y. I don't know why I'm getting a Y. I'm getting a question mark
We're going to
around
stop
the Y.
there, Kenny.
Yes.
I'm going to stop
I'm
right
getting
now.
an aura
I'm going to
around
stop
me
right
that
now.
tingles. I'm gonna
You
get
just
tingling
said,
around me.
I got to stop right now.
Yes.
That is incredible,
Incredible.
what you just said. Am I right? This is Miss Ruth Webb, who is manager and handled Mickey Rooney for all these years. Miss Ruth Webb, Mr. Kenny Kingston.
How are you, sweet spirit?
My God, I cannot believe you had M.R. in there.
Wait a minute, but they just said Y.
But
Mickey?
what? But that's
Mickey. Really?
What is
Mickey
Y,
Rooney.
though? What is
Mickey
Y?
Rooney.
No.
Mickey.
Why is the last?
It's the last-
book?
No. That would be unfair. A good psychic is going to tell you why. It's a capital Y. What's his real name?
Joe Yule.
Yule Y.
Yule, that's
Yeah,
it.
Yule.
That's
the
right.
Y. That's the Y.
That's
That's
his
right.
father.
That's right.
That's
Now
right.
I see you
Isn't that strange?
with this man in London, though.
Mickey Rooney?
Yes,
I've never been there.
you'll go. He will go. If, thank you, Spirit. Incidentally, Mary, dear sweet Spirit, Ruth.
Ruth Webb.
You're right, but they're calling her Mary. Now, one of my guides, you know, is my grandfather Henry C.
Right.
Plus Clifton Webb.
Right.
Plus Clifton Webb.
Uh-huh.
And Chief Running Bull. You have Indians all around you. Tell Mr. R,
Uh-huh.
Mickey, that London is where he should be now. If he's not there now, which we know he's not, he will be going to London. Is there anything about London surrounding him?
I don't really know at this
May I
particular
say
time.
something to you?
Please.
The reason she's on the show, I wanted you to meet her.
Of course.
Ruth Webb has just been fired by Mickey Rooney. Is that correct?
Well, I've been fired and rehired a number of times.
Rehired,
Where I am
fired.
really is
She just,
the time
well,
of day.
she is no longer with Mr. Mickey Rooney. And she is the lady who developed and restored his career in all these years. How many years would you say?
16.
16 years brought Mickey Rooney back into the boards.
Well, that's a 7.
Yeah.
1 and 6 makes a 7, and that's the end.
And now he's
Spirit's
in
place.
town appearing at the Pantages Theater doing a show called On the Funny Way on the Way Form.
But did you suggest anything at all to him, may I ask, that would have to do with London?
Oh, yes, he's been offered sugar babies in London.
Well,
He's been offered many
yes.
things in
But
London.
did you suggest he go to London?
Well, I have at the time the offers
Good.
have come
That
along.
was,
it.
because
That
this,
was-
accepting this particular production was a wrong judgment. He should be in London now. He should have done it in London instead of doing this play. I wish him success with this play, but he should have done it.
Well, the price wasn't what he felt was right for him.
But it would have been.
Miss Ruth Webb,
Yes.
you are actually from New York City. That's true, but you were a nightclub cabaret singer. Did you know that, Kenny Kingston?
Yes, oh,
Miss
sure.
Ruth Webb was
Oh,
a
sure.
marvelous cabaret singer working very chic rooms in New York and the Lower East Side up. And
Yes.
lovely chic rooms. Name some of the little rooms you worked
Persian.
in. The Persian, yeah.
No, I missed that one. I did Cafe Society downtown,
Uh-huh.
the not the Copa, the Latin Quarter, Park Avenue Restaurant.
In the
Little
village,
Tray.
right. It was
And I-
gorgeous.
in the where?
Gorgeous. In the village, isn't it? The one?
Some of them were in the village. Most of them were on the east side around the 50s.
50s, I see.
But I also,
What kind of singing did you do? What was it?
I did the kind of singing they would listen to. I considered I was slumming because I'd been a nightclub. I'd been a Broadway star. I had replaced Betty Comden for a year
Right.
and on the town, and I didn't want to travel. So I felt I was slumming, and I always worked in hoop skirts. And I would sing something terribly classical to wake up the people who were drunk, and the gangsters who were sitting in the back row would come in for a little snooze. And if people didn't listen to me, I used to drop my hoop skirts over the table. We would have tables a little smaller than yours, and sometimes it got a very noisy table. I did things like my bill in the original key.
I see.
And I've done Kiss Me Kate, and I did show tunes
When did Miss
primarily.
Ruth Webb become an agent?
The day that I was disinherited.
What do you mean by that? You were
My
married?
father- no,
You were married so many times,
I've
really?
been married 3.5 times.
3.5 times?
Three and a half.
Half.
You
does
were
that
never married to
half-
Mickey Rooney. He's a half, but you never married to Mickey Rooney.
No,
That's
but-
Clifton Webb. That's not me.
No, but I have been very close family
Sure.
to him, and I love him. I love his wife, Jan Chamberlain Rooney, whom I introduced him to. And what seems to be going on right now is, as has happened before, that someone outside is influencing Mickey. He has the king's ear, as he said many times. He made me pay off for the privilege of having the king's ear until I couldn't take it any longer. He has $36,000 he's not accounted to that he got from me for sharing with me my own client's ear.
Yes.
And people have come along like that before. They get greedy. And when I stopped paying off, and I was giving kickbacks as well, I was asked to take 5% instead of 10% because of some real scam that the accountant dreamed up that had to do with the new Reagan administration.
Yes.
Just garbage.
I see.
I sent it out to all of the major agents, and they were ready to run this accountant out of town on a
Yes.
rail, except that I left his name out of the letter. So I refused to take the 5%, and I was fired. But I was fired illegally, because you cannot fire an agent legally and be finished with them unless you have had 90 days of no offers and no employment. This has never in 16 years happened to
Right.
Mickey Rooney. He turns down more things than he accepts constantly. So the unions have told him that I'm still the recognized agent. He can sign with anybody, and he probably has, but that doesn't mean that they can take a commission.
Yes.
You can fire an agent and tell him not to work for you, but you have to pay them unless you have this. Now, it is not just the fact that he
Yes.
owes me $71,000, but I am very, very hurt because I love this man.
Yes, yes.
I mean, this is family.
Is he difficult to work with, Miss Webb?
Well, to me, it was a challenge and something I wanted to do for somebody deserving. I can't say how difficult it was, but it's been a labor of love most of the time. Not that I didn't get paid, but in the beginning, it had to be completely redone from
Yes.
scratch.
I see.
He acknowledges that and that I put his career together, and I say I've never stopped working
Yes.
for him.
What do you feel, Kenny, right now? She has a lot to say. You say she has a bursting thing to say. What do you feel about this?
I'm getting an old adage, Ruth. The past is the past.
Right.
And the charm of the past is that it is the past. I'm not saying don't sue, but don't go back. Let the door be closed. It's closed now.
I know
Don't
that.
reopen it. Because if you reopen it, it will never be the same.
Right.
It was the same before, Spirit says. But around Mickey Rooney, who would Barbara be in the spirit world who passed away?
That would be the wife who was
Ah.
murdered,
Now, I would have no way of knowing, would I?
unless you read his biography.
Oh, no. Mickey Rooney has never intrigued me that sufficiently. I'm sorry, that's Clifton again. But anyway, Barbara, that's a name to come around Mr. Rooney. All right.
All right.
she tells me let it alone, drop it, forget it now. I'm not saying the lawsuit to drop, nothing of that. I'm saying your relationship with him.
It's gone anyway.
Right, it can't be helped anymore.
No.
You've done the best you can, and now that's over, that door is closed. We'll talk on Monday about your record,
Kenny,
me dear, and that's quite all right.
Where did you get your psychic feelings from?
I was born with it.
What? Say that again.
Born with it. Born. It's
I
like
understand.
it's like Ruth. She was born to sell. She was born as a performer.
Right.
And what better person could a person have as a manager than a fellow performer, if you will, who understand the heartache, the emotional upsets. But a psychic is born. I learned tea leaves, as I said, then psychometry, then clairaudio, all together. And so I was fortunate in my lifetime because I've probably been to the psychic to most of the most famous people in the world. But the most intriguing of them all
Marilyn?
Monroe, yes, but the Duke and Duchess of Windsor, I think, because he was not a believer, and she was, strong believer, and he tolerated me. But this is Marilyn's 25th anniversary of passing away.
This is right now. Did you know that?
Yes.
No,
Did you ever meet
No.
Marilyn?
No.
Tell me about Marilyn Monroe. 25-year anniversary right now. Tell me about that lady.
I first met her, Clifton Webb rang me. I was living in San Francisco, and Clifton rang me up and said that a Mrs. DiMaggio, he did not say Marilyn, and DiMaggio is a common name in San Francisco.
Of course.
That needed a reading immediately. So we set up an appointment for 9 o'clock a couple of nights later. And I lived in the top of Pacific Heights where it gets quite foggy. And 9 o'clock came and the doorbell didn't ring.
Right.
And now that's rare because clients to come to see me privately are never late, usually. I mean, they have their own selves to be concerned about.
Yeah.
So finally, about a quarter after 9, as I was going through the house, the doorbell rang, and my houseboy started toward the door, but I got there ahead of time. Yeah. And I opened the door, and there she stood with a white ermine fur and a black coat and a kerchief. And she was breathless. Well, I recognized her, of course, instantly. Invited her in, and I said, "Why are you breathless?" I brought her into the den, asked her if she wanted a glass of water or something. And she said, listen, this was Marilyn. This was the real Marilyn. She said, "I am breathless because I walked 5 blocks. Here." I said, "Why did you walk?" She said, "I got out of the cab 5 blocks away from your home because it just broke in the newspapers today that I'm undergoing psychiatric treatment, and I didn't want your reputation spoiled." And I believe that she would be alive today
May I ask you a question?
had she remained married to DiMaggio. Yes,
May I ask you a question?
surely.
Do you believe she was murdered?
Never. No.
I don't
Absolutely not.
People were claiming that she was murdered.
No.
Was she accidentally
I talked to her 3
Accident-
days before she passed.
3 days?
3 days, on a Wednesday. She was actually passed late Saturday night or early Sunday morning, and it was announced Sunday, the 5th, I believe, of August that the body was found. But it was a little combination of barbiturates with a little bit too much alcohol. But she was very happy, called me on a Wednesday, wanted me to go to the beach with her. I said, "I can't. I have private readings." I said, "But I'll tell you, Marilyn, put a babushka on, forget your dark glasses, wear a sloppy Joe sweater, nobody's going to recognize you, and you'll be happy." She called me at 6:30 that night, as happy as a lark. She was reinstated by the studio.
Dean Martin, she was doing the film
That's right.
at the time.
And she bought the house in St. Helena in Brentwood, which she shouldn't have bought. It was the wrong house for her, but that's okay. It was a house, not a home.
What do you mean by that, Kenny?
It was a house. It had no warmth. It was eerie. The trees came down late at night. And Marilyn had a tendency to need people. She adored people.
Was she always on the phone?
Yes, pretty much so.
She was?
Pretty much so, yeah. She'd call at all hours of the day or night.
Who's some of the wonderful people that you... Is Marilyn your favorite of all?
Oh, no. Everyone is.
Everyone?
Yeah. I've never had a private reading from a person.
Clifton Webb. Tell me about
Oh,
Mr.
yeah.
Clifton Webb. You know, I adore this man. I think he was a brilliant performer.
I met him
style.
because of Grace Moore.
Style. Tell me about it.
I was in the Army, and in the middle of the night, a spirit voice came to me, and the smoke came up, spirit smoke. It was my grandfather, one of my guides, Henry C. He said, "Go back to America immediately." So I asked Grace Moore, I was in the Army, but as her announcer. So I asked Dan Daly if I could be, who was our lieutenant in charge,
course.
if I could be relieved of my command as her announcer. So she said, "Yes, you can, but on one condition.
Yes.
You go to Copenhagen with me, and then we're going to go home." I said, "No, I can't go to Copenhagen.
Yes.
I've got to go home." She said, "Under one condition, that you dine with Clifton Webb, who was leasing Grace's townhouse with his mother Mabel.
Yes.
So I flew back to, and I didn't, I took the ship back in the Army, and finally went into New York, and 3 weeks later, to the day at night, I was sound asleep in my hotel room. The same spirit smoke came up, not real smoke, but the spirit smoke came up, and I said, oh my God, something's happened to Grace. I picked up the telephone, I called Mae West. I'd met Clifton at the Plymouth Theater in New York, where he was appearing in Sir Noel Coward's Present Laughter.
Yes.
Mabel answered the phone in Grace's bed.
Yes.
I said, something's happened to Grace. She said, you're having a bad dream. I went back, tried to go back to sleep. 15 minutes later, she called me and she said, Kenny, Grace has just perished in the plane crash with the King of Sweden. A seat was empty next to her that was meant for me. Last year, for the first time in all those years, I went back to the Plymouth Theater at Lily Tomlin's invitation.
Right.
Went backstage and I said, Lily, you're going to win the Tony. She said, oh, no. Oh, yeah. And I said, Maria Ospenska. Remember Maria Ospenska?
Of course, I love her.
I said, she came to me last night in the middle of the night. Lily said, my God, I've had to play the matinee yesterday and an evening performance. I couldn't sleep. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I tuned in television. There was Maria Ospenskaya.
Oh, I love her. Yeah.
I said, well, she told me you're going to win the Tony. And she also said, use your chloroseptic. She said, what chloroseptic? Oh, she said, I had my driver stop for chloroseptic this morning.
Kenny,
Yes.
would you do me a favor?
Sure.
Would you turn her on again and get the numbers for me for the lotto?
I can't do that.
The California lotto. Can you do it?
No, that would be taken from us.
I
know that, but that would be cheating. See, that was when our gift would be taken from us. I'll do anything else for you, but I can't do anything where money is involved.
Can you touch me and feel some
I can keep your jewelry. Sure, a ring.
Really?
A ring.
This is my oldest.
That's
This has been
fine.
with me for 35 years.
Okay.
35 years.
This was
been
really
all over the world.
really a gift, though.
No, it
Yes,
wasn't a
to
gift for
yourself.
myself. I bought it for
Yeah,
me.
but you paid more than you should at the time. I mean, you felt you paid more because you
Maybe,
owed
I
it to
don't-
yourself. Okay.
But I loved it at the time.
Your television show, I'm going to tell you what they're telling. Who's David?
David.
And who's Jim? Is there a Jim around you?
Yeah, there's Jim's.
All right.
There's David's.
All right. Okay, no, David in spirit I'm talking about, who passed away. Just say he's welcome.
David and Spirit.
He's welcome. He's welcome.
He's welcome.
Okay.
He's welcome.
You will do a national television show when you get up off your butt, excuse me, gotta tell you what they're telling me, and make up your mind that you're going to do it. You're your own worst enemy. You procrastinate.
I'm a Gemini.
I don't care who you are, a Gemini, Aquarian, whatever. It doesn't make any difference. You're a procrastinator, all right? But you give too many people the benefit of the doubt,
True.
and stay that way. You turn one cheek and then turn the other cheek. Stay that way.
Stay that way?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But buy property.
Buy property. Okay.
You understand?
Okay.
Buy property. But income property, like a duplex,
Yes, yes.
because you're going to be doing a lot of traveling.
Oh, I have
We may all meet together because Ruth is going to go to London,
She's
I'm telling you.
traveling. Is she going to, is she?
What am I going to do in London?
You're going to book me, now that you don't have Rooney.
No, she doesn't have room.
Well, she could have me.
But she does. She handled people like Jane Powell. She had so many wonder. Catherine Grayson. What kind of a
Catherine
lady Catherine Grayson? She is a lady, isn't she?
She is a total lady, one of the loveliest people I've ever known, and yet she has been known to get up when it's been too much and in a very ladylike fashion pour a pitcher of water over someone's head.
She has tried.
But in the most ladylike fashion, and she is one of my dearest friends, and I'm very, very grateful for her.
And Jane Powell, is she living in New York now?
I never handled Jane. I knew Jane through our mutual acquaintance, Jane Pittman.
But you booked a lot of summer theater, Ruth.
Oh, I
the
booked summer theaters and dinner theaters and Broadway theaters and films
all over
and
the
television.
world.
But I never happened to have booked Jane Powell because actually she was also in competition with Catherine, whom I
Now,
booked many years.
excuse me, but let me tell you something. Is this ironic? We haven't heard Catherine Grace's name in a long time, have we?
Right.
Even longer, we haven't heard Grace Moore.
That's true.
But Catherine Grayson played Grace Moore in the life story,
She
right?
certainly did. You're
How interesting.
absolutely
With Merv
right.
Griffin.
How interesting.
Tell me about
Isn't
Merv
that-
Griffin.
isn't that not interesting?
Yes.
Kenny Kingston,
What
I
is
used to turn it on and see you on Merv Griffin all the
Over
time.
50 times.
Tell me about Mr. Griffin. I love him. I miss him too on TV.
I
Tell
took
me.
over 50 times when he said, and now, ladies and gentlemen, the world's most famous physic. Physic, yes, 50 times. I think the talk show will come back. Talk
You
show
think so?
must come back.
He's
oh,
wonderful.
sure.
He's very
Absolutely
Why
fantastic.
did he took away? I mean, just left and
I think
take a rest?
they call the head shows, you know, where people sit and talk, and I think that went out of fashion for a little while.
You'd be
but it's come
wonderful
back.
as Kenny Kingston show, doing a variety show. I mean, a variety show.
Oh.
I like the Late Show. MC that Late Show, Kenny Kingston. I could see.
Well, Ruth, why don't you
Webb-
talk to somebody and book me, dear? And
No, I'm
I mean-
serious.
I
I'm
know.
very serious. You'd be wonderful on that Late Show as a psychic to the stars.
Mm-hmm.
How many? I mean, you know all the stars in this town. Lily Tomlin. Tell me about that lady.
I never met Lily Tomlin. I never saw Lily Tomlin on television in my entire life
Right.
until I went backstage. No, I went to New York. I came back last year from a world cruise. Anthony Newley and I did a show aboard the Rotterdam. And when I came back from Casablanca, where I held a seance for Ingrid Bergman, went to he said, you've got to go to the Plymouth Theater,
Yes.
and you've got to see Lily Tomlin. I'd never seen Lily on television at all. And making a long story short, he said, she's the toast of Broadway. There's no seats available. But we went in and asked at the box office. They said, you can have 2 seats tonight, 7th row center. I thought, she's a failure. No way can we get seats. It was a quirk, that was all. So I left her a copy of my book.
This is the book.
That's right.
I love this.
Left the copy of the book with a little note to her in between the matinee and the evening, and said, much success. I got a telephone call that night at the hotel. She said, will you come to see the play? I thought, poor thing, she's got nobody there to see the show, and she's inviting me. And she said, if you want to bring other people, please. I thought, well, the poor thing wants the theater filled. I was wrong. See, we're not right 100% of the time. But needless to say, well, by the time we got to the theater that night, sold out every single night, every
Yes.
single night. She was the talk of the town.
Ruth Webb, Mickey Rooney, Life. I love this picture of him.
This is in Variety. We used the
It's-
Life magazine cover
Uh-huh.
and put it in Variety. Mickey put that in as a birthday gift for me. And what he wrote down there on the bottom, which is very beautiful, was a great surprise to me and one of the loveliest things he's ever done.
Uh-huh. He is a nice man, though, isn't he, Ruth?
I love him. I love him.
He's a genius.
He
I
is
must tell
absolutely
you.
a genius.
He's an absolute genius in our business.
He is a genius,
He
but
doesn't like what's
listen.
Hollywood's today. He doesn't like
He
what's
doesn't
happening.
listen. He doesn't listen.
Doesn't listen?
He doesn't listen.
Like, what do you mean? He does not listen.
This is
You
a
mean
man
to you or to...
This is a man who, given the opportunity, would go downward instead of going to his success. I can tell you a very funny story about how he happened to get sugar babies. First of all, I did a newsletter, and in this newsletter that I sent out to 4,000 people, I would write gossip and what my people were doing and show their pictures. I didn't bring one with me. But I had written a rather, they were all outrageous, but I had written about Paul Lynde.
Paul Lynde.
Paul Lynde,
Adore him.
who had come down
Wonderful.
to Florida
Uh-huh.
to a restaurant that my son, Jack Webb, had just opened. I had gotten Paul to come over as a celebrity.
Uh-huh.
And things were not handled quite as they should be because Paul came in at 12 o'clock at night after having done 2 shows in Miami, came over to Fort Lauderdale.
Right.
And Jack, who was terribly nervous, brought this young piano player over just as Paul sat down for dinner.
I can imagine
and
what
he
he
said,
said.
Mr. Lynde, would you like to have Kenny so-and-so for dinner? And Paul destroyed the place, and it was so funny looking back at it that I put it in the beginning of my newsletter. Harry Rigby read it,
Right.
taught about Mickey Rooney for sugar babies, and contacted me.
And that's how it all began.
That's how it began. And then Mickey didn't want to do sugar babies. He said, it's a piece of crap. I don't want to do this. No good, it's no good, it's no good. So I had duplicate contracts made up. One was with Harry Rigby, one was with me, one was with Tony DeSantis in Chicago, where Mickey was playing at the time, and
Right.
one was with Jan, his wife. So every time that Mickey went to someone close to him and said, I shouldn't do this, it's a piece of crap, we said, do it, sign, 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 sign. He finally signed in Chicago, and he didn't know that he was in a hit until after they had opened in San Francisco, and during the second part of the engagement here, he suddenly realized that he was in a hit.
Tell me something. President Reagan. What do you feel right now, Kenny Kingston? America is in very big trouble. I mean, we don't look good to the world, Kenny Kingston. I mean, it's this lady on TV is becoming stars. The Bakers are becoming stars. All this sex, beauty. I mean, why America is going for all this?
Because
crap?
we should, number one, change one preposition. It should not be President of the United States. It should be President for the United States.
Go ahead.
As Americans, we elected him our Commander-in-Chief.
Right.
We should remain loyal to our Commander-in-Chief
True.
until he's out of office.
Right.
But I predicted the moment the President was elected that he would never, never fulfill his term.
Reagan.
And I must remain
I agree with you.
behind that.
You still
will not-
believe he is
yes,
not going to fill
He will
his
not
term?
fulfill his term. No,
You feel something's going to happen in office?
definitely. He will be out of
I see it.
office.
He'll be out of office?
He'll be out of office.
He won't fill.
He will not fulfill the commitment, no, unfortunately.
But why America right now is accepting all this bakers and this woman on TV?
We are-
And their
I-
rices are ruining the people's lives.
No
Why?
meditation, no meditation. I have not discussed this with you, but regarding my book,
Yeah.
it is not in the bookstore. You have to write
Right.
for it. But anybody who writes to you
Yes.
and just puts candle chart
Yes.
on it, and sends a self-addressed,
Go ahead.
self-stamped envelope
Right.
to you or whoever we can. I will send them a candle chart free, which will tell them how to meditate. I will send it to them free
like that.
with your compliments.
Good.
And now that poor Ruth has lost Mickey through some reason or other, all right, with Ruth's compliments
Yes.
and your compliments, I will
Yes.
send it to them free. If they will send a self-addressed, self-stamped envelope
Yes.
in care of me to you.
Good.
Fair enough?
Fine. Ruth Webb, what's going to happen now? You said something. What's going to happen, Miss Ruth Webb? Agency, you have a lot of stars you're handling. You're
Well,
doing,
we don't have quite that many stars at the moment because Mickey has taken up 80% of my time for
Oh, he has
16
taken it.
years.
Yeah,
oh
I
my
see.
goodness, yes.
Yes,
I
okay.
mean, it's been everything.
But you are looking for new talent all the time.
Yes, I have a very, very, very good team of girls.
Uh-huh.
One of them is Sherry Spillane, Mickey Spillane's wife.
Oh, great.
And then I have two others, very strong
Uh-huh,
ladies, and we are a star agency. In fact, when I settle this nonsense, it isn't nonsense, but when I settle this,
Uh-huh.
what is owing from Mickey, I really want to become a manager and stop
That's
being an agent
perfect.
because I have done management work and been
Yes.
very underpaid and underappreciated.
Exactly.
The name agent has a stigma to
I
it.
Yes,
understand.
exactly.
I understand. Ruth Webb, looking back over your career and Mickey's career and everything, do you have any regrets right now? Tell me.
Yes, I'm heartbroken. I loved the man, I was family, I'm heartbroken.
You're just... Hey, Kingston, how about you?
Mhm.
You have a wonderful life
Thank you.
to be a wonderful psychic. Can you do your own feelings? You
Oh
can-
yes, I think
you
a
can.
psychic. I think a psychic that says that the biggest tragedy in my entire life was the loss of my mother, and it was not. It'll be 3 years this coming
Yes.
July 7th, and it wasn't a mushy love; it was a profound. But I can make contact with her. She's given me ways to go to
Yes.
find things, and I think any psychic that says they can't foretell their own destiny is copping out.
I see. Where are you from originally?
Buffalo, New York.
You grew up there?
I grew up, for a period of time, and I lived in San Francisco, and I lived in Venice, Italy for a long period of time.
Truman.
Yes.
Very good. Tell me about Truman, real quick. You felt him?
I thought always. Oh yes. Well, he was so psychic. You read read the book by Margaret. He told me. He said when I saw the Truman Library, he said I looked at Bess and I said, "Do you see that tree?" When they were planning the Truman Library, he said, "Do you see that tree over there about 100 yards?" And she said, "Yes." He said, "That's where I want to be buried. In case I want to walk into the office, I can walk in. It'll be close by."